Hey guys, doing a bit of a roadie. So we're heading down to Waihau Bay, and Ben gave us a call as we were leaving Tauranga, so we stopped in at the wholesalers, and the whole back of the ute's full of beer. Keep the boys lubricated during the contest. So Waihau Bay have got a contest on, a tag and release contest, which is fantastic. So yeah, we're doing a roadie and heading on down there. So we're coming through a bit of beautiful coastline, absolutely beautiful. So yeah, looking forward to getting down there.
Hey guys, how's it going? We are making our way along the coastline now. TK is all the way down there taking a piss. But how beautiful is East Cape? Pretty bloody cool. And we're just having a little chuckle. There's a boat, I don't know if you're ever going to be able to see it, way out in the distance. And you can kind of only make out the silhouette of it. But TK's adamant that he knows who it is. Apparently it's Dugong, the guy that used to run the Cap Favel for Henry, my granddad. But yeah, it's way the hell out in the distance, and he's absolutely bloody adamant that he knows not only what boat it is, but who's driving it and what they're probably bloody catching.
I'll show you what's going on out there, and then basically just open up the floor, so we'll just yak about whatever you guys want to yak about. So I'll show you what's been happening out there today. As I was saying to Ben, with the cloud cover, we'll get a way better picture tomorrow morning. So what I'll do is I'll download one after 11 o'clock tonight, and I'll chuck it up on the hopefully on the Waihau Bay Game Club. Otherwise, I'll chuck it on my page, but I'll try and get you a nice fresh picture for the morning anyway, guys. So this is a download for today, and because of a cloud cover, so the way it works, there's no satellites will go through and through heavy cloud cover, but the way Time Zero works, they'll do a computer modelling, and they'll basically look back 3 or 4 days, and they'll work out the trend on where it's going, and then once they get a different picture, they'll readjust it. So that's what we got yesterday, but tomorrow morning we'll get a real clear picture, and I'm hoping we'll see some of these more of these balls coming off. But that's what's happening at the moment. So you guys have had all this big cloud of chlorophyll there for the last month really, it just wouldn't bloody go away. So that's finally moved away. So I'll bring on your chlorophyll there. It's in the dark red there. So that chlorophyll's moved out of the bay and it's come up to the top there. But if you look at this ball of water here, and I bring in your temperature share, so your temperature share is basically when you get, you're going from say 20 degrees and all of a sudden it shoots up to 21, 22 degrees. And that's where you want to be working, because that basically works like a big wall. So if you've got bait fish hanging in the warmer water, or even this little finger down here, all the cold water around it basically holds all the bait in there. So I'll put on the temperature share there and you'll see what's going on there. So that face there, there's a very steep change in your temperature. So if I was you guys, that's where I'll be working tomorrow, along this edge here. You've got chlorophyll, so it's a matter of ticking box. And I was saying to the boys before, in the old days, the 90s and that sort of thing, when we started doing this, we'd get a printout at home off the NIWA site, so we'd get a sea surface temperature printout off the NIWA site. We didn't have the printers on the boats in those days. You take that, you get on your boat, and you bugger off to sea. Well, by the time you got out to sea to the area, the water had already moved. But in the old days, I used to call it ticking the boxes. So you were looking for those changes in colour, a bit of dunnage and flotsam and jetsam, birds working, whales working, dolphins working, that sort of thing. The more of those things you could see, the more boxes you ticked, the more chance you had of finding your feed. Basically, the same thing applies now. So you've got a heavy chlorophyll. As I say, it's moved out of the bay and it's moved offshore, and you also got to start a steep temperature share there. So if I was you guys, that's where I'd be looking off Lot and Point. So I'll take these off. You can see what's going on there. Your current's not that strong. In fact, you've got opposing currents here at the moment. So that's what I'll be working on. And basically, if you guys follow my subscription site, so I'll go around and I'll mark all these spots. I'll give you there's a better picture on the west coast actually. Where was it? Yeah, so I'll go along and I'll mark these little fingers. So as I was saying before, if you've got the bait accumulating around these warmer spots, the colder water around it will act like a fence and it herds it all in there. So I'll mark a spot, but it doesn't mean to say the fish are going to be right there, but they're going to be accumulating around that spot. So you've just got to work that transition area. So they'll go into the colder water and feed, which is the darker water, and then they'll come back into the warmer water and rest. And that's how they operate. So you've just got to work out, they might be working in this contour line along this edge here, on that 21.8 edge here, but they're racing in, grabbing feed, and then they'll come back and rest. So all you've got to do is come up towards your marks and work that area, and you'll find your fish. So that's what's happening at the moment. It's not that good a looking picture, but so you guys were working today. The boys were saying you were finding sort of purple water out the 300 metre line. So if we blow that up, you'll see what's happening there. It's basically converging on that 300 metre line. So if I can't find a nice looking ball of water that's broken off from the side, I'll go along and I'll mark these convergence zones. So, I'll put a mark along there, and all you've got to do is work that convergence zone, because that's where the fish are going to be loitering. They're going to be loitering between the cold water and the hot water. So if you go back and look at Lot and Point, because it's such a, see how that's really wide, so you've got a real slow fade between the hot and the cold. You've got a really sharp, so it's bloody cold there, and all of a sudden it's really warm. So it's a very sharp decline in temperature, and that's where your fish are going to be hanging. They're going to be hanging there, and going to be loitering. They're going to be running in and out. So, like if I'm doing a forecast, I'll put a mark there on there. So that's identifying the warmest spot. But at the end of the day, you want to be working that edge. You want to be working backwards and forwards. So if I was you guys, and I haven't looked at the forecast yet, but I'll be running straight up here, and I'll be running down to the southeast there, and I'll be working that edge, and I'd come right up into the warm, right down, and at some point you're going to get the fish. So once you know where the buggers are loitering, event it on your screen and away you go. So that's what I'd be looking for you tomorrow. We'll look at the weather. So and when I look yesterday, it's looking shit hot, eh? So that's today. And we're just going through, that's midnight, so you're going to get a little bit of an onshore there, but I mean that's only 5 to 10 knots. So the whole of tomorrow you're looking pretty bloody good, eh guys? You're going to get a bit of a breeze there lunchtime, and the other thing is you've got to watch, you're going to have to beat your way back to Waihau. So tomorrow afternoon you've got, it's going to get up there, it's about 15, 18 knots up there at the moment, so that's tomorrow night, and then Friday you're going offshore again. So you've got, and that's so typical, isn't it guys? You get that bloody front, the weather coming up from Gizzy, that's Rob's fault. But yeah, it's looking all right there guys. So that's what's happening at the moment, and as I say, tomorrow I'll give you another update, and hopefully we'll get a better picture, and I'll chuck it up on the Waihau Bay Club page and see what we find. So That's what's happening at the moment, but essentially, if you've got any questions about the bluefin or whatever, let us know. And I want to have a yak to you guys about tuna champions as well, and how they help you guys look after your bluefin. The bluefin are on the way up. The boys are getting them off Kaikoura now. So the next couple of weeks you'll start seeing them off Palliser and starting to move up towards Castle Point. So they're definitely here. The boys are getting sort of school fish, sort of 20 to 30 kilo, but they're here. So and the boys down off Fjordland have been getting them for over a month now. So yeah, basically I'll leave it open to you guys. If there's any questions, bloody let us know what you need to know about. And don't be shy.
Tony, there's been a lot of on-ramp survey work done here over the last 4 or 5 years.
Yep.
John Bolton's been doing with
Yeah, I know John.
research. And so the first few years after, there was some commercial fishermen that got online and said that, guys, if you want to get out and try and catch a bluefin, I suggest you get off Waihau Bay. Now, I'm not sure who that was. Put his hand up.
Yeah. I got a lot of trouble from that, from both sectors.
You've given us a hell of a lot of trouble.
Yeah, I know. So
And just the average weights of the fish, the first few seasons, they sort of averaged in that early to mid 70 kilo range.
yep.
I think it was about the third year that they were getting chased here. We had, I think we were in the first month of the term run, up around 82 kilo.
Yep.
And then this last season, we've just seen lots of small fish.
And you guys have got to remember we had 3 La Ninas in a row and now an El Nino, so everything's changed, and basically the rule book gets thrown out. So we're starting to see fish that are not normally in our area. So a lot of mahi this year. I wouldn't be surprised if we don't see any wahoo. So everything's changed. So basically the rule book gets thrown out of the window. It'll settle down again, but essentially they're still here. They'll be out wider. So, so they basically hang in the year classes. You don't get a real mix. We always find you won't get a whole mix of sizes. If you hit a patch of fish, they're basically in the same size class all the way through. So, and it's essentially a year class. So you'll just find that they've moved out wider. So and that's an issue for you guys because it's essentially a small boat fishery out here. So they'll be there, and you might find next year it's going to be a completely different story. The whole idea of your southern bluefin, we're basically the food larder for the West and South Pacific. So they leave the Timor box, they come down the west coast of Australia, come round the bottom, and it's been an unusual year actually. I've been fishing down the south coast down off Ulladulla. It's been for me personally, it's been a bloody poor year. I got there right at the end of the southern bluefin fishery. For the season, so I sort of missed out on it. But I had a couple of mates that have been fishing down in Victoria, and they got fish right through. So basically, the bluefin have been there all year. They're still getting fish here now. Even a month ago, they were getting 70 kilo fish down below Tassie. Right, and some of you guys might have seen in the Facebook post, they had juvenile southern bluefin under the bloody wharfs, one of the wharfs there in Victoria. So they've basically been there all year. So so they're not doing the spawning run. So yeah, basically it's a different season this year, but it'll settle down. If we have more El Ninos in a row or La Ninas, it'll form a pattern. But it's changing and changing. Like I talked to the scientists last year, and they said the biomass has increased by 12%. And that's the government scientists. So as you guys are seeing, the stock rebuild's been absolutely fantastic. It's become a major sport for us now. It's been really good. It's really healthy, and that's basically good governance. And that's where Tuna Champions have come into it. So they've recognised, and the Tuna Champions is an Australian government-led initiative, and they've recognised that, hey, there's a good fishery here, but we actually want to look after that fishery for the future generations, and this is for the recreational side of it. We've got our strict quotas for the commercial fishery, and now they're saying, right, there's a hell of a lot of effort going in from a recreational sector. Let's make sure that these guys know how to look after their fish. So if you go onto the Tuna Champions site, you'll see that they've got, and a lot of the guys here are promoting it too, using the whole fish, not just whacking the bloody loins off and throwing the rest of it away. So they've got a full range of bloody recipes on how to look after your fish. And they've also got how to successfully release it. So they're promoting using barbless hooks. They're even supplying barbless hooks. So they're promoting either if you're going to look after it, if you're going to keep it to harvest and eat, right, here's the recipes, here's how to get the most out of it. And also, if you're going to release it, here's the best techniques to release it. And we're finding that here. You know, the first, and it's totally understandable. The first couple of years, everyone was basically go out and get one, you know, and everyone was knocking over his men, and you guys were seeing it at the ramp. Each boat was coming in with numerous fish, and there was a hell of a lot of bloody wastage. You know, we heard all the stories about the fish being sitting beside the weigh station with the seagulls eating it. That's changed now, and I talked to Grant Dixon about it probably 2 years into the fishery, and he said, you know, we need to educate. And I said, I can't say a bloody word. I'm a commercial guy, so if I say to the recreational guys, hey, you know, start looking over your fish, I would have got slaughtered. You know, it had to be led by the recreational fishers, and you guys have done it yourselves. You know, no laws have been passed or anything, so there's no legislation. You guys have actually got over the fact that shit hot, you know, I've caught all these bloody fish, and now you guys are starting to get into the sports side of it. So you're starting to do the top water techniques and trying different techniques, and we're seeing it now at the boat ramp. You guys are releasing a lot more fish than you used to, which is good. You know, at the end of the day, we're all guardians for the future generations, and you guys have stepped up as recreational fishers, and you're looking after the bloody fishery yourselves. No one's told you have to do it. You've done it yourselves, and that's, you know, you've got to be applauded for that. It's, you know, it's top effort, guys, and you're looking at the sports side of it now, and that's where tuna champions come in. They'll, you know, there's a vast library of information on that tuna. So I recommend you guys have a look at tuna champions. The information's still valid for over here. And you know, I take my head off to you guys. You've done a bloody good job. So, yeah, and it's, you know, it's a successful fishery, and it's getting better and better. So we're seeing that fish now. As I say, it's off Kaikoura. It'll be up off Castle Point and Palliser in the next couple of weeks, and it's still slowly moving forward. Those fish are all small fish, they're all schoolies, but you know, the other fish will be there, will be out wide. And they basically, as I keep telling you guys, they'll keep trucking up and they get off. Yep, you'll get them up at the Three Kings, but essentially the vast majority of them will get up sort of up towards Northland, and then they actually travel out to the east, grab the currents, and they go down below Stewart Island, down into the Southern Ocean, and gap it down across the bottom of Australia and back up the west coast again, up to an area called the Timor Box. It's a spawning area up there. Well, we know this basically from catch history on the commercial boats. I've been working up in the Coral Sea for 4 years. I've never seen a southern bluefin up there. So we know if you're not going across the top of New Zealand and going up around the reef and up around the top of Australia, and we know from the records from the Japanese fisheries, they follow the fish, you know, so we know where they go. Things have changed for our commercial fishery because we know that right back in the 50s and 60s, the Japanese were fishing down off Dunedin. Our fleet now in the last few years have actually started their season down on Dunedin, and they follow them up. So yeah, and that's why I've been giving marks and marks for down in Dunedin and down in Christchurch. You know, we never really consider those areas as a game fishing area, but the fish are there, and sure enough, the boys are off Kaikoura and they're catching them. So it's bloody exciting. So yeah, so it's not far away, guys. Yeah, so exciting times ahead.
What about the West Coast, e.g. out of Auckland?
Yeah, they travel up both coasts, and I don't know why. I mean, we also have the Japanese in the middle of the Tasman Sea targeting them, and you know, if you look at Australia, they travel right up as far as sort of Coffs Harbour. We get the northern bluefin up a lot higher, but the southern will get up sort of around Coffs area, and it's the same thing. They travel up the west coast of New Zealand, and I don't know why they take the left turn early, you know, and start heading up the coast. It could be on that day, you know, or it could have been it could be in their genetics. I honestly don't know, but it could be on the day, you know, as they get across the Tasman, there's a ball of bait to the north, they go and chase that instead of going around Stewart Island. So yeah, I couldn't tell you why, but they do travel up there. The issue we have is that there's not a lot of guys fishing off the west coast, you know. So we just don't have the same catch effort going into the west coast as we do up here. But I mean, the Taranaki, you know, the Challenger plateau is a phenomenal fishery, but no one ever gets out there. You know, the stripies and that I've seen off Taranaki are absolutely amazing. It's a really healthy fishery there. So it's just a numbers game, really. But I'm. Yep, same time. Yep, because I mean they're on the calendar. You know, the whole idea, like we're the food ladder, so they come over here, and when you first see them late January, early February off Fiordland, they're skinny little beaten up bloody things. You know, they've been essentially rooting. They've been spawning up in the Timor box. So it's like school kids all, going to the school ball. You know, they've been partying. They come down around to New Zealand because we get the flush of nutrients come out from Antarctica, and we're essentially the food larder. So they're coming here to feed. When they first get here, they're bloody skinny, and it's the same. It's the same with your other pelagic species, your stripers that migrate up into the South Fiji Basin. You know, I used to follow them up. A lot of the guys used to finish around September, October. A lot of the tuna boats here used to finish the season, tie the boats up and paint them, and start again in February. I used to follow them up the Kermadec Trench up into the South Fiji Basin, and I actually tagged I put a satellite tag and a sortie there for John Hollingsworth many years ago. So they're going up there to spawn, and it's the same with the bluefin. They come back down here to feed. It's not because we're good guys. They're coming down here because this is where all the food is. This is where all the kai is. So they come here to put on condition. And so by the time, and you'll see it when they're around here, compared to the fish you'll see, say, down off Fiordland and Dunedin, by the time you get them off East Cape, they're starting to put condition on. They're looking quite tidy, and you judge it around the tail. You know, there's the fat content around the tail. So instead of being a skinny baseball bat, they start to look more like a rugby ball. And we used to do it, like if we only had a small quota, we'd actually wait until they were right up in the Bay of Plenty, up towards Great Barrier. Then they're starting to, the skin looks like it's about to split. They're really, really fat in the tail. They put on a lot of condition, and that's the highest value to us because they've got the biggest, the high fat content in them. So by the time they start moving up towards Barrier and Pawn Night, they are in primo condition. They're bloody bristling, you know, really fat. They've got really, really bright, translucent colours, bright colours. They're basically getting themselves dressed up to go back to school ball, so they're getting all their good gear on again. So once they've got the condition, they race down to the bottom, gap it, and they go back up to the school ball up in the Timor box. So that's their life cycle. So they're here to put on condition. And it's like, you look at the early yellowfin and the early stripers when they first arrive, you know, and everyone thinks, okay, they've been spawning up in the South Fiji Basin. The first place we're going to see them is at North Cape. Well, that's not the case. More often than not, the first place you see them is right here because they're following the Kermadec Trench, following the currents of the Kermadec Trench down here, and that basically Kermadec Trench goes from the South Fiji Basin straight to East Cape. So quite often your first yellowfin you see will be in the Bay of Plenty, not off Northland. But when they arrive, they're like bloody flounder. You know, they're all skinny and beaten up because they've been spawning. You know, you look at them at the end of the season, that's when they're primo condition. You know, that's when you're going to get your big fat fish. So that's a cycle. And we're very fortunate. You know.
On the bluefin run coming past here and got dead threats for it for a few years.
Yep.
Is there anywhere else that you would go to target them?
Bluefin?
Or let me rephrase that. You let slip down in Napier that there's another run somewhere.
Oh, that's the.
Would you ever
That's the northern bluefin.
fuck up and let that slip again?
No. No, it's not worth it. And you guys are good enough to catch, yeah. No, there's a lot of stuff goes on that you guys done, and there's some incredible research coming out. So I should be able to do it actually. So what you guys see on the surface, even 20 metres down, it's a whole different world. So, you know, you look at your sea surface charts.
Were they catching them before?
Where are we going to catch a fish tomorrow?
Right there. I'll give you the long and lat, 37.23, 178.21. Got a pen? Well, let's make it real easy. That body of water is 10 miles off Lawton Point. 10 miles off it. So you guys will see it. So hang on, let's get rid of. So that temperature break is basically 8 miles. 8 miles north of Rotten Point, you're going to run into that temperature break, and you should pick it up on your sounder. You know, you'll get, if you've got a temperature readout on your sounder, you'll pick it up, and you'll see it. You can see, you know, you've got bloody cold water there, climbing up into that hot spot. So you'll see that temperature break, and basically, if I was you guys, event your temperature break. You know, as soon as you start shear up, event it, and start working that line. You know, so drop back into the cold. As soon as you see it's climbing up, and essentially you're going to draw your own map, and you just start working that temperature break. That's basically where the tuna fishermen all around the world, we all work the temperature breaks. That's your fence, basically. But I mean, so you guys look at the sea surface temp, and then you look at, if I'm targeting a species, I'll actually look at the sea water temp. So I can set that layer, so that's set at 5, I can set that layer at, say, 150 metres. It's a whole different ball game. There's no warm water there at all. So it's a whole different ball game. And I attended a FRDC, a Fisheries Research Development Corporation conference online a few months ago, and they're doing a correlation between the yellowfin catches and swordfish catches in Australia and what's happening at different depths. And they're finding the biggest catches of yellowfin correlated with the warm patches in 500 metres. Even though the fish aren't there, they're finding that 500 metres is where it's warm at 500 metres, that's where the yellowfin are hanging. So there's a lot of science coming in. You know, they're only just starting on it now, but we've got some bloody exciting information coming in the next few years. There's a lot more science coming into it. So, and it's different for me. I'm not fishing on the surface like you guys are. My gear's sagging down. It might be down 30 metres. If I deep set for, say, albacore in the Coral Sea, my gear's down 300 metres. And it's a whole different world down there. You know, I mean, 600 metres, you're looking at 5 to 6 degrees in New Zealand. You know, it might be 22 degrees on the surface. And I know that from catching the king crab here. I was catching king crab in 1,200 metres. It's 5 or 6 degrees down there. Bring it up to the surface and the bloody things were cooking. So we had to start chilling our water to keep them alive to bring them in for market. So, but even 20 metres down, so what you're looking at the surface, even 20 metres down, it's a whole different ball game. The picture's completely different. And that's what you guys are finding with your bluefin. You know, sometimes it's slow on the surface, and that's where you bring your bib lures in. Try and get your gear down a bit deeper, and you'll still find the fish. Another thing, of course, is to change the light. So when I was fishing in the Bay of Plenty here, by law in New Zealand, we must shoot our gear 1 hour after nautical sunset. That's to avoid seabird captures. So by law, you've got to shoot 1 nautical hour after sunset. So we used to shoot sort of 9 o'clock at night. We'd shoot a gear. It takes us 3 hours to shoot the gear. We wouldn't start hauling until lunchtime the next day. We'd start hauling, and say 2 o'clock, if the fishing was quite slow, we'd actually buoy the line off again, and we'd sit and have a cup of tea and the boys would have a couple of hours sleep. We'd hook up to the gear again just on dark, and because our gear's right up on the surface, as you're hauling, like we've got, say, 12 metre long traces, and we're using a whole squid about 250, 300 grams. So as we're hauling, your gears on the surface might be 300, 400, 500 metres ahead of you. As you start hauling, basically your lures come up and they start skipping. So we'd hook on again just on dark and start hauling, and as we're hauling, bang, we're getting slammed. So the fish are coming on the bite just on dark, you know, and they're actually slamming the fish like a lure as we're hauling the gear. So if you're having a slow day, you want to stay out, but of course you've got the safety aspect with small boats. You know, if you're coming out of Waihau, you don't really want to be out there after dark and coming in. So and that's another thing, is you always look at your change of light, and I find that in virtually every fishery. It's the same with blue nose. When I'm doing my blue nose gear, I normally shoot 3 lines. I start shooting 1 o'clock in the morning, and I start hauling my first line right on daylight. That's when we get our best bite. So if I'm fast enough, I'll rip my first gear up and try and get it back in the water again by 8 o'clock in the morning. I'll get another line on that morning bite. If I try and shoot that gear after about 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I get stuff all. It's actually a waste of time. So if I arrive out on the fishing ground sort of after 10, 11 o'clock in the morning, I won't bother shooting until 1 o'clock that night. We'll just drift and dream and wait for until 1 in the morning. So it's always that change of light, and it's the same with all species. And the way I look at it, same with snapper. You know, our snapper, when we're snapper long lining, we always made sure we got all our gear in the water before we change the light in the morning. If you reset in the afternoon, yeah, you'd still get a feed, but it was nothing like your morning bite. And the way I always look at it, it's basically twice the traffic. So right on dawn, you've got the nighttime fish looking for dinner, and you've got the daytime fish waking up and looking for breakfast. So you've got twice the traffic on the feed. So I always fish to change of light. And it's the same with the Japanese guys. They always work that change of light. Well, they base theirs on the moon phase. The Japanese used to base it on the moon's position, and it used to be 30 degrees above the horizon. They started shooting their gear. So, but the change of light's always crucial for me. But for you guys, you also got to put that safety aspect in there as well. You know, getting in there after dark. Yeah.
The swordfish follow the same sort of pattern as the striper?
The swordfish are a bit different. So, you know, as you guys know, and basically the Kiwi boys at the forefront of this, you know, you guys are doing so well. You get guys that have never done it before go out and getting sorties on your first drop. You know, we've got such a bloody healthy fishery here. But the way the sorties are, they're down in the morning, and it's the same. I see the same thing with blue nose and 500 metres. So about 11, 12 o'clock in the day, you'll see around 500 to 600 metres. You'll see if you've got a decent Fruno sounder, you'll see a white and blue fleck, basically feed, and that's basically your krill and all your gremlins, that sort of thing. So about 11, 12 o'clock in the morning, you'll see that start to rise up, and the Fruno guys, we've got a band that we can set. We can set that line and we can follow it. So righto, I'll have a look at it, and for me, it's like watching TV, because I sit there fixating on my Fruno bloody FCV 1200 or 1150, and I'll see it start to lift up, and you put your marker line on it, leave it an hour, and you'll see it's definitely on the rise, you know, and you watch it rise up. The sorties come up with that feed, so that's all your squid and all your gremlins, basically life, and that's a vertical migration that happens every single day. It's the biggest migration in the world. So you guys think of the wildebeest and all that sort of shit, and in the Sahara and that sort of thing, or savannah. The biggest migration happens every single day, and that's that line of feed coming up. So that starts coming up. By mid-afternoon, it's up to sort of 250 metres, and it arrives on the surface right on dusk. And that's the gremlins basically waiting for all the predators to bugger off. So the safest time for them to come up and feed on the phytoplankton is right on dusk. The sorties follow it up. So for us, if we're targeting a swordfish, I start shooting at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. So I'm getting most of my gear in. It takes me 4 to 5 hours to shoot my gear. I'm getting most of my gear or my bait in good nick on the surface right on dusk. And you'll watch the blue nose. So you'll watch the schools. As I say, for me, you know, it's only the last few years we've started having TV out at sea, you know, with Starlink and that sort of thing. But my Fruno sounder was my TV, and I'd watch it every single day. You'd watch as it starts lifting off, the blue nose will lift off with it, and that's why, again, your fishing is better in the morning for your blue nose. They start lifting off, and they'll get about 100 metres above the seamount, and they'll chicken out and they'll run back down to the bottom. But your white and blue band just keeps following up, and depending on the quality of your sounder, you'll see the sorties coming up with it. You'll see those dark red marks coming up with it. And as it gets closer and closer to the surface, you'll get more definition on your sorties. And that's why traditionally, you know, you guys as well, before the deep dropping was invented, you guys were dropping your baits, you know, you do your night drifts for sorties if you're out wide, because they're coming up with the feed. And that's how we base our fishing trips. So we start, traditionally, we start on the first quarter of the moon phase, because your bait's coming right to the surface right on full moon. Your bait's coming right up to the surface, and that's your best bite time. But we also get a slow patch for about 2 days right around the full moon. So we'll sail on the first quarter, we'll do our first trip, and about a day or 2 days before the full moon, we'll race in, unload, reprovision, race back out again, and get out a day or so after the full moon and continue fishing to the last quarter. During the new moon cycle, when there's no moon, essentially that band of gremlins doesn't come right to the surface, because the moon's not drawing it. There's no moon, so it doesn't come right the way up. So nor do the pelagics. So your quietest time of the month for your pelagic fish is on that new moon quarter, and that's when we'll go and have a week off, fix everything we've broken, and let the boys have a few days off. So that's why we always recommend, you know, if you're targeting your pelagic species, you want to be from the first quarter through to the last quarter. And your lunar cycle is everything with pelagic species. It's everything. Yeah. So.
Did you find much of a difference, like summer versus winter for the swords?
No.
Is there a hot season?
No, they fish. I mean, and that's the funny thing, and I've sort of mentioned it on social media before. You guys have got it all asked about face, particularly here in the Bay of Plenty. For our commercial catches, our best sword fishing is January and February. But I can understand it. You guys, shit, the stripies have turned up, there's the odd yellowfin starting to turn up, get the guide reels out and get the lures out. I can fully understand that. But actually your best months for your swordies are January and February. So you guys, around about now, you guys start to think, oh, well, it's starting to slow down, sort of end of March, I'll put the reels away. That's when you want to be taking your swordies. So yeah, January and February is the best month, but March and April, but we get them all year round. It's a bloody healthy fishery here, we're very lucky. You get the swordies all year round, but it's all based around that moon phase. Like we don't even bother on that new moon cycle. And traditionally, if you're specifically targeting your swordies, we shorten our gear up. We shallow our gear up. So instead of having the gear down, and the way we do that is, we'll have a float with say a 2 fathom rope. Not 2 fathom, 7 fathom rope. Clipped onto the line, and then we'll shoot X amount of hooks, might be say bluefin, say 14 hooks at equal spaces, and then another float. When we're doing the swordies, we might shoot only 8 hooks between floats, so the gear's shallowed right up. Some places like America, they're only shooting 6 hooks between floats. Some of them clip the float straight onto the backbone, so the gear's virtually right hard on the surface. And the same thing when we're shooting, we can put a lot of tension on the line, so the line's sort of bar tight as we're shooting it out. Whereas I actually like, for most of our tuna species, I have quite a lot of sag in my line as it comes out the back of the boat. So when we're targeting swordies, it's right on the surface. Different story for you guys. You're doing your deep drops, And I don't think the moon phase really affects it down there because they're down there every day anyway, down on the bottom. So the moon phase affects how high they come up in the water column, depending on the lunar cycle. But as far as you guys doing the deep drop, you'll basically catch them in every moon phase because they're following the squid down. So you guys are targeting, say 500 metres is you're normally around 500 metres, and you've got your gear about 100 metres off the bottom. Now it's another thing that Cam and I were going to film too, is the way the current affects your bait. So if you're fishing, say, back of barrier, there's 5, you've got Mokohenau Canyon, you've got Tataweka and all the other seamounts and Barrier Bank itself. So you've got basically 5 fingers out there, 5 ridge lines with 5 deep canyons in between them. If you're at 500 metres and you're dropping your bait down and you're trying to get it on a ridge line, the best way to describe it is right here. So Waihau Gorge. So you imagine Waihau Gorge, you're driving through Waihau Gorge, stop there and have a look. You imagine what that wind is doing through that gorge. It's hitting a ridge and it's hitting a valley, it's swirling all over the bloody place. Well, instead of the wind, imagine the current. It's exactly the same thing. It's hitting that bottom structure and it's swirling. So you think on the surface, the Bay of Plenty, the predominant current is northwest, coming from the northwest to the southwest. So your current is heads, and that's the predominant current from North Cape to East Cape. Whole different story down in the canyon. So you're sitting up there, you might do a dummy drift in your boat, especially if you're on a trailer boat, you've got a short draft. You're actually getting affected by the current and the wind. What's happening downstairs is a whole different ball game. So you think, right, I'm right on top of this canyon, I'm going to drop down here and it's going to land right on that ridge. Bullshit. Time it gets down there, like you might be drifting that way, the current downstairs could be going totally the opposite direction. So your bait could be bloody up in 300 metres, or it could be anywhere. So yeah, you just got to sort of take that into account. It's a hard one to judge, but I think the way it is in New Zealand, you've got such a bloody rich resource down there.